Hey.
I don't think I am.
She called me a pig.
In the world of hip-hop, one tweet can spark a storm. And this time, it came straight from the queen herself. When Nicki Minaj allegedly called Saucy Santana a pig on Twitter, fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. The post was brutal, cold, and unapologetically public. Within minutes, screenshots flooded the internet. Nicki's Barbz went to war, while Saucy's fans rushed to defend him. But behind all the chaos, something deeper was unfolding. This wasn't just about a tweet, it was about pride, betrayal, and the fragile line between fame and friendship. What made Nicki snap? And how did Saucy Santana's reaction turn the entire internet upside down? This is the story the blogs didn't show you, a story of ego, emotion, and explosive truth. This is the story vault. It started with a single tweet, one that nobody saw coming. Late Friday night, the internet was quiet. Hip-hop Twitter was in its usual rhythm. Fan edits, memes, song debates, and reposts of old interviews. But then, Nicki Minaj tweeted something that froze everyone's timelines. It wasn't a promo. It wasn't a verse. It was a sentence, short, sharp, and vicious. You'll keep hyping up that pig like he relevant. Be serious. At first, people thought she was joking. Some assumed it was about a random troll. But when fans realized Nicki had recently unfollowed Saucy Santana, everything clicked. Within minutes, the name Saucy began trending, not for his music, but for a war nobody expected. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Influencer accounts reposted the tweet before it was deleted. The phrase "that pig" became the internet's newest controversy. Nicki hadn't mentioned a name, but the damage was done. Across the city, Saucy Santana's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts from friends, DMs from fans, his team calling non-stop. When he finally opened Twitter, the post was everywhere, attached to his name. He stared at the screen for a long moment, disbelief painted across his face. Nicki Minaj? Calling me a pig? It didn't make sense. Just a year earlier, he'd praised her publicly, even called her an inspiration. He'd danced to her songs on Instagram Live, defended her when critics came for her looks, and even hinted at wanting a collab. And now, this? The betrayal stung deeper than words. Because for someone like Saucy Santana, a loud, proud, unapologetic artist who had fought for his space in hip-hop, respect was everything. He had always looked up to Nicki. But that night, the idol became the enemy. By sunrise, the internet had split into two sides. The Barbz, Nicki's army, flooded timelines with defenses. They said Saucy had been throwing subliminals for weeks, making slick comments about Nicki in interviews and tweets. Some claimed he'd liked shady posts about her husband, Kenneth Petty. Saucy's supporters, on the other hand, said Nicki was bullying, punching down instead of uplifting another artist in the game. They accused her of being insecure, unable to share the spotlight. The hashtags told the story. #Nicki vs Saucy, #pigtweet, #queen behavior. And while fans fought digital wars, the two artists stayed silent, at least for a few hours. Then, Saucy Santana broke his silence. He went live on Instagram. Face bare, hair tied back, voice steady but tight with emotion. "I don't do the back and forth," he began. "But what we not gonna do is disrespect me publicly and act like I'm supposed to stay quiet." Thousands flooded the stream within seconds. You could feel the anger in his tone, not the kind that explodes, but the kind that comes from deep hurt. "I came up off hard work, not clout. I showed love when they didn't even acknowledge me. And now I'm a pig? For what? For existing." The comments flew like fire. Some cheered him on. "Speak your truth, Santana." Others begged him not to engage. "Don't feed it, she wants attention." But Saucy wasn't holding back. "You can be the queen all you want, but that crown don't give you the right to disrespect people who looked up to you. It's giving mean girl. It's giving bitter." That single clip spread everywhere. Blogs posted it within minutes, headlines screaming. Saucy Santana slams Nicki Minaj after pig tweet. Santana responds to Nicki's diss. "It's giving bitter energy." The internet exploded again. Nicki Minaj didn't respond directly, but she didn't need to. Hours later, she posted a cryptic tweet. "Never bite the hand that uploads your song." Fans interpreted it instantly. They dug up old clips where Nicki had once shouted out Santana's track "Material Girl." The implication? She helped him, and now he was turning on her. It was messy. It was emotional. And it was everywhere. Behind the scenes, though, insiders claimed something else had triggered the outburst. According to people close to the situation, Santana had recently been seen at a party in Miami, the same night Nicki performed there, and reportedly made comments mocking her husband, Kenneth. A bystander recorded him joking, "I don't need no man on house arrest to make me feel important." That video surfaced right after Nicki's tweet. Fans connected the dots. Maybe that was the breaking point, the reason behind the pig comment. Still, others believed there was more, a long, simmering tension that had finally boiled over. Whatever the truth, the world had taken sides, and neither artist was backing down. Saucy's team went into damage control. They advised him to lay low, stop tweeting, and let things cool down. But Santana wasn't built for silence. He posted one more message before disappearing for the weekend. "I may not have millions, but I got self-respect. I ain't a pig. I'm a whole boss." That tweet hit different. Because it wasn't loud. It was honest. And for the first time since the drama began, fans stopped fighting and started feeling. By the end of the day, even celebrities were chiming in. JT from City Girls posted a cryptic story. "Some people forget where they came from when they get too high." Then deleted it minutes later. Cardi B liked a few tweets shading Nicki, something fans instantly screenshot. The entire hip-hop world seemed to vibrate with tension. You could sense it. Something bigger was brewing. And while the internet kept feeding off the chaos, both artists disappeared. No tweets. No stories. No lives. Just silence, the kind that comes before another explosion. The world didn't know it yet, but what happened next would change everything. Because Saucy Santana's next move wouldn't just be a clapback. It would be a confession. Something that would flip the narrative and force everyone, even Nicki, to rethink what really started this war. The internet didn't sleep that weekend. Clips, reactions, memes, everywhere you looked, it was Nicki versus Saucy. Podcasts were already dissecting the feud, fan accounts were choosing sides, and YouTube was flooded with explainers claiming to know the truth. But while the world laughed and speculated, Saucy Santana was silent. And that silence was starting to feel heavy. His usual energy, the confidence, the sass, the jokes, was gone. No new videos. No stories. No comments. For someone who lived online, this quiet was deafening. People started wondering if the moment had broken him. Some said he was embarrassed. Others believed he was plotting something. They were both right. Because behind the scenes, Saucy Santana was writing. Not music, not a diss track. A statement. A message that would change everything. On Monday morning, at exactly 10 a.m., he posted it. A long, emotional note on Instagram. "I'm not here to play victim," it began. "But I'm also not about to let a whole generation of people think I'm something I'm not." He admitted that the comment he made at the Miami party was real, that he did make a joke about Nicki's husband, Kenneth Petty. But he explained why. "It wasn't shade, it was frustration. Because I felt disrespected for years. I looked up to Nicki, she was the blueprint for confidence. But somewhere along the line, that love turned into distance." He revealed that months before the pig tweet, he had reached out to Nicki's team for a possible collaboration. No response. He felt iced out, ignored, and dismissed, like he was invisible to the woman he once called the Queen. And then came the line that broke the internet. "I never wanted to beef. I just wanted to be seen." The post hit harder than anyone expected. Even people who weren't fans of Saucy began sharing it. Because underneath all the glitter and drama, it was painfully human. A story about a fan-turned-artist, crushed by the rejection of his idol. Within hours, major outlets picked it up. Saucy Santana speaks out after Nicki feud. "I just wanted to be seen." Santana's emotional response shocks fans. It was never hate, just hurt. It was everywhere. But what caught everyone off guard was Nicki's response, or rather, her lack of one. She didn't tweet. She didn't clap back. She didn't like a single post. For the first time in years, Nicki Minaj was completely silent in the middle of a feud. That silence spoke volumes. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, industry insiders started whispering. One producer, who'd worked with both Nicki and Saucy, revealed something wild. Apparently, a few months earlier, Saucy had been in talks to perform at a major fashion event, until the organizers backed out last minute. Why? Rumor had it that a certain big artist didn't want their name attached to his. No proof. No receipts. But fans instantly assumed it was Nicki. The speculation reignited everything. Tweets started flying again. Nicki been blocking opportunities. She's scared of the new generation. This is industry bullying, period. The internet was back on fire. But in the middle of that chaos, Saucy Santana did something nobody expected. He went live again. His tone was different this time. No anger. No tears. Just calm clarity. "I'm not here to destroy nobody," he said softly. "I don't need to. Because real always wins. You can be the biggest name in the world, but if your heart ugly, that's gonna show eventually." He looked straight into the camera. "I said what I said. And I own it. But calling me a pig? That's deeper than shade. That's character." You could tell, he wasn't speaking to the internet anymore. He was speaking to Nicki. The live ended with one final line that fans would repeat for days. "You can call me names, but you can't call me fake." That moment changed everything. Even Nicki's fanbase, the Barbz, began to shift. Some defended her fiercely, but others started to question her choices. She didn't have to say that. This wasn't the Nicki I grew up loving. Santana handled this like a man, respect. For once, the narrative wasn't about the queen vs the clown. It was about empathy, respect, and how the industry treats those trying to climb the ladder. And somewhere deep down, Nicki was watching it all unfold. Because while she didn't say anything publicly, sources close to her hinted she was regretting how things had spiraled. She hadn't meant for the insult to explode like that. It was supposed to be a moment of anger, not a public humiliation. But once you hit send, there's no taking it back. By midweek, something unexpected happened. Nicki deleted the tweet. No explanation. No apology. Just gone. Her fans defended it, saying she was above the drama. But others saw it as quiet accountability. And for the first time, people began asking a different question. Was Nicki wrong this time? The tide was turning. That night, Saucy posted a video. No makeup, no filters, just him sitting in his car, talking to his followers. "You'll keep asking if I'm mad. Nah, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed, yeah. But I'm also grateful, because now the world sees me. Not for drama, but for truth." He smiled faintly. "God don't make mistakes. Maybe this had to happen for me to find my own voice again." It was powerful. Real. And the clip hit millions of views overnight. Even people outside the hip-hop world were talking about it. He turned pain into purpose. And for once, it felt like he'd won without ever throwing a punch. But peace in hip-hop doesn't last long. Because just when the dust began to settle, a leaked audio clip surfaced. A recording of a phone call, allegedly between one of Nicki's team members and an insider, claiming there was more to the feud than anyone knew. And what was said in that recording would change everything. It was late Thursday night when the internet exploded again. Just when people thought the storm had passed, a new recording surfaced, one that would take the feud to a darker, deeper level. An anonymous blog posted it first. A grainy, 2-minute audio clip that seemed to capture a conversation between two voices, one allegedly belonging to a member of Nicki Minaj's team, and the other an insider from a major label. At first, people didn't believe it. But as the voices played through the static, the words were unmistakable. Nicki didn't tweet that out of nowhere. Santana said something about her kid. That's why she snapped. The line hit like a bomb. Wait, what? Did Saucy really mention Nicki's son? Because if that was true, the entire story had just flipped upside down. Within minutes, blogs started dissecting the clip, slowing it down, cleaning up the audio, comparing voices. Twitter threads popped up, thousands of comments deep, arguing over what was real and what was faked. But one thing was clear, the damage was done. Fans were torn again. Some sided with Nicki immediately. If he talked about her kid, she had every right to go off. Others refused to believe it. Santana would never cross that line. This is set-up energy. For every person defending Nicki, another was defending Santana. And in that digital chaos, both of their reputations hung in the balance. The next morning, Saucy Santana went live again, his third time since the feud began. But this time, he looked different. No anger. No tears. Just exhaustion. "I'm tired," he said softly. "You're really out here making stuff up to keep this mess going." "I ain't never, and I mean never, said a word about that woman's child." He looked straight into the camera, voice trembling but firm. "I know how it feels to be dragged. I know what pain looks like. I would never bring nobody's family into it. That's not who I am. For a moment, he went silent, his eyes glassy, like he was holding back tears. Y'all can hate me, call me names, say I fell off. But one thing y'all not gonna do is rewrite my heart. That line, rewrite my heart, became the quote of the day. People felt it. Even those who had dragged him before started to see him differently. But while Santana spoke from the heart, Nicki's silence started to look calculated. She hadn't denied the leaked audio. She hadn't defended herself, either. She was just watching. Insiders claimed her team was trying to trace the source of the leak. Some said she was furious. Others said she didn't care. But one thing was certain. The Queen was planning her next move. And when Nicki Minaj plans, she never does it quietly. 2 days later, she appeared on Queen Radio. Her fans waited in silence as that familiar intro music played, and then, her voice. "Let's clear a few things up," she said. "First of all, I don't owe nobody an explanation. But since you're so invested, here's the truth." Her tone was sharp, defensive, but unmistakably emotional. "I've watched people throw shade at me for years. I let it slide. I let people talk, laugh, make jokes. But what I won't tolerate, ever, is disrespect toward my family. Period." The room went quiet. So if I said something I shouldn't have, maybe I was reacting to a lie. Maybe I was misinformed. But I'm human too. Her voice cracked slightly. "You don't get to call me a bully for defending myself. But I'll say this, if Santana never said that, then I can admit, I was wrong for what I said." It wasn't a full apology, but for Nicki, it was close enough to one. The internet went crazy. Some said it was sincere. Others said it was strategic, a way to clean up her image before her new single dropped. But to fans of both artists, it felt like a fragile olive branch. That same night, Saucy reposted one simple message on his story. "I accept peace. No drama. No shade. Just peace." For a few hours, it felt like the war was finally over. But hip-hop doesn't rest. Not even in peace. Because that same week, a new snippet leaked from a studio session, a verse that allegedly featured Nicki Minaj taking subtle shots again. "Talk slick, get dragged like a purse, I'm the pig's worst curse." Fans froze. Was this real? Or just a fan edit? It sounded like her. It felt like her. And once again, the comments went wild. "So we back to shade again. This woman can't stop. She said it wasn't beef. Why she's still cooking?" Saucy stayed silent. Completely silent this time. But you could tell, he wasn't broken anymore. If anything, he seemed evolved. In one of his next Instagram captions, he wrote, "The best revenge is letting people watch you win." He was done fighting. Done explaining. Done letting others define him. He started posting clips from the studio, snippets of new songs, laughter with friends. And slowly, the energy around him shifted. People stopped talking about him as Nicki's target. They started talking about him as Saucy Santana, the artist, the survivor, the voice who refused to be silenced. Meanwhile, Nicki's world kept spinning. Her new single debuted at #1. Her fans declared victory. But something about the celebration felt different. Because no matter how big the win, everyone remembered that moment, that one tweet that changed the way people saw her. It was a reminder that even legends can bleed. That every crown has a cost. And that sometimes, power isn't about the next hit, it's about knowing when to stop swinging. As weeks passed, the feud slowly faded from headlines. New scandals took over, new artists emerged, and timelines moved on. But those who had followed every second of it knew, this wasn't just another petty internet beef. It was a mirror held up to fame, ego, and the fragile humanity behind every superstar. Because when the cameras turn off, and the tweets get deleted, what's left isn't the drama, it's the damage. It's the lesson. And for both Nicki and Saucy, the lesson was loud. Sometimes, the real war isn't between people. It's between pride and peace. It was nearly 3 weeks after the tweet, and for the first time in a long time, both Nicki Minaj and Saucy Santana had gone quiet. No more subtweets. No more lives. No more shade disguised as captions. Just silence. And in that silence, something strange happened. The world started to reflect. Fans who had once fueled the chaos began to realize just how deep it all had cut. Because behind the viral moments, the memes, and the hashtags, were two human beings. Two people who had both fought their way to the top in completely different ways, but carried the same scars of fame, judgment, and misunderstanding. Saucy was sitting in his studio one night, alone. The lights were dim, the beat looping endlessly in the background. But instead of recording, he just sat there, thinking. His phone buzzed, another notification, another gossip post, but he didn't even look at it. He'd stopped reading them days ago. He whispered softly to himself, almost like a prayer. I ain't gonna let the internet decide who I am no more. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and hit record. This time, not to clap back, but to heal. The beat kicked in slow and moody, and Santana started freestyling. You can drag my name through the dirt, but I still rise first. They call me loud, they call me worse, but baby, I'm blessed, that's my curse. His voice cracked on the last line. Not because he was sad, but because he finally meant it. It wasn't a song for radio. It wasn't for clout. It was just him. Raw. Real. Free. Meanwhile, across the city, Nicki Minaj sat in her home studio. The queen herself. But tonight, there was no entourage, no cameras, no bright lights. Just Nicki, sitting in front of a mic, headphones on, staring at a half-written verse. She'd been working on something, not a diss track, not a hit single, but something different. It was more honest than anything she'd written in years. And though she hadn't told anyone, it was about this entire ordeal. She rapped softly into the mic. I said some things that I shouldn't have said. It came from pain, not from my head. The world don't see what the crown can weigh, but I'm still learning to walk away. She paused, and then smiled faintly. Even she knew it was rare for her to sound that vulnerable. But it felt good. It felt human. Because for once, it wasn't about who won or lost. It was about remembering that empires fall when empathy fades. Days later, something unexpected happened. Saucy Santana received a call from a mutual industry friend, someone who'd worked with both him and Nicki before. Listen, the friend said quietly. Nicki heard your new freestyle. She said, it was beautiful. Saucy froze. He didn't know what to say. Then the friend continued. She also said, tell him I understand now. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even direct. But it meant everything. For a moment, Santana just sat there, eyes closed, letting it sink in. And for the first time since that horrible night on Twitter, he smiled. Tell her I understand too, he whispered. The next day, fans noticed something subtle on both their profiles. Nicki had liked one of Saucy's old performance videos, the one where he first went viral performing Walk. And Saucy? He reposted a clip of Nicki performing Moment for Life. No captions. No shade. Just respect. The internet lost its mind, of course. Everyone started tweeting. Are they cool now? But maybe it wasn't about being cool. Maybe it was about closure. Because sometimes peace doesn't need a press release. Sometimes, it's just a quiet acknowledgement that the war is over. Weeks passed. Both artists went back to doing what they loved, creating. Nicki dropped a surprise remix that sampled one of her old classics, and fans hailed it as a return to form. Saucy released a new single, soft, soulful, reflective, completely different from his usual style. In interviews, he didn't mention Nicki, and she didn't mention him, but their growth showed. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed they'd even crossed paths briefly at an award show. They didn't talk long. Just a nod. A small, knowing smile. And that was enough. Because forgiveness doesn't always need words. Sometimes, it's just two people deciding they are tired of carrying hate. Months later, Saucy posted a message that would go viral for all the right reasons. You don't lose anything by being kind. You only lose yourself by staying angry. And in the comments, among thousands of emojis and heart reactions, one stood out. A pink heart. Sparkling heart from @Nicki Minaj herself. The fans lost their minds. The media went wild. But Santana didn't say a thing. He just replied with 3 words. All love now. And for once, it truly was. The internet that once tried to tear them apart was now celebrating them both. Clips of their music started trending again. Fans made edits calling it the most mature comeback of 2025. And somewhere deep down, both artists probably knew, this wasn't just about them. It was a reminder for everyone watching that fame doesn't make you flawless. It doesn't protect you from pain. And it doesn't mean you stop being human. Because in the end, words fade, tweets delete, and drama gets old. But the way you rise, the way you choose peace over pride, that's what people remember. So as the lights dimmed on this chapter of hip-hop drama, one thing became clear. Nicki Minaj and Saucy Santana didn't just end a feud. They reminded the world that even in an industry built on noise, sometimes the loudest power move is silence. And just like that, another storm in hip-hop found its calm. What started with a single tweet, a few careless words, ended with something far more powerful: understanding. In a world where fame magnifies every flaw and social media turns pain into entertainment, both Nicki Minaj and Saucy Santana reminded us of something we too often forget: that behind every viral post, every headline, every trending hashtag, there's a real human being just trying to be heard. Maybe this wasn't a feud at all. Maybe it was a mirror, showing how pride, pressure, and perception can twist even the strongest souls. But in the end, they both did something rare. They grew. They chose peace instead of pettiness. And for once, hip-hop didn't end in fire. It ended in grace. So, as you close this chapter with us tonight, remember this: you can't control what people say about you. You can only control how you rise from it. And sometimes, silence is the loudest victory of all. Headphone, this was the Story Vault, where we don't just tell stories, we uncover the truth behind the noise. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join us next time for another deep dive into the real lives behind the headlines. Because out here, every beat has a backstory, and every story has a lesson. Fire, stay real, stay kind, and remember, there's always more beneath the surface.